All right, we are in study 20 of our study in the letter to the Philippians, and today we're going to finish by looking at chapter 4, verse 21 to 23. Before we do, we'll answer the questions for chapter 4, verse 19 to verse 20. And I really believe that Paul has the teaching of Christ about worry and possessions in his mind here as he writes out Philippians 4, verse 6 to 20. The themes are so similar, and I would really encourage you to go and read once again Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 to verse 34, and just see the similarities between that reading and here in Philippians. So the first question was about the promise of verse 19. And the promise is that God will provide for his people and that he has unlimited resources. Now this is similar to the promise of Matthew 6, verse 33. As we seek to live as a citizen of the kingdom, seeking first the kingdom of God, then God will meet our physical needs. What a beautiful promise that is. No wonder we can be free from worry, and no wonder we can have peace and be content. And no wonder the Philippians could be so consistently generous because they were trusting in God's giving and kindness to them. The second question was about why Paul gives God glory at the end of this theme. And God deserves glory for a number of reasons here. Because he gives us peace, his peace that's beyond understanding, that guards our hearts and minds in verse 6 and 9. Because he enables us to be content in verse 11 to 13. Because he works the fruit of generosity into our lives, as you can see in verse 15 to 17. And again, once more, chapter 1, verse 9 to 11, and chapter 2, verse 13. And because he accepts and remembers our gifts, verse 17 to 18. And finally, because he will provide for our every need according to his unlimited resources in verse 19. That's why he deserves all the glory. How can we be worried with such beautiful truths like this in our hearts? Now we're at the end in verse 21 to 23. We have three questions to bring it to a conclusion. First question, Paul started the letter encouraging unity in chapter 1, verse 3 to 8. So he did that in a subtle way, if you remember. How does he do it again here at the end in verse 21 to 22? So that's question 1. Second question, why do you think he mentions Caesar's household at the end here in verse 22? And I encourage you to go and read chapter 1, verse 12 to 17. Third question, Paul's final words aren't just filler. They are important. Notice how he begins and ends his letter. And what do you think is important about this? Go and read chapter 1, verse 2 and chapter 4, verse 23. That's it for Philippians. Tomorrow we will release the answers to these three questions and then give a summary conclusion of the letter to the Philippians. God bless.